This is the Dover Download Podcast. My name is Christopher Parker, and for the past 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working with, learning from, and talking to a variety of volunteer, staff, and community members. This podcast explores conversations, activities, and a variety of policies and programs which exist here in Dover to improve the community in one way or another. This episode of the Dover Download Podcast is part 2 of a 2-part conversation with outgoing Mayor Bob Carrier. If you missed part 1, I suggest you go back to learn about Bob's history, what led him to join the city council, and conversation will continue now with what it was like on the city council. Bob, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate the invite and excited to have a good conversation.
So last episode, we talked about you growing up here in Dover and some of your activities pre the city council. And we talked about how Bob Keys was the Ward 1 councilor. Bob passed away, which I remember going to his funeral. And that was one of those funerals that if everyone in the community wasn't there, I don't know who was, because that was a packed church.
It was packed, and also his family connected with me and asked me to speak at his funeral.
I was going to say, and you were one of the
I was one of the keynote speakers on that, and that's because we were friends. It was just, he meant a lot. He did a lot. He was a character.
He definitely was.
He was a character.
His brother Tommy still worked for the city when I started.
Yeah,
Bob, who had worked for the city before, was not with the city at the time. But Tommy was, and that the family were characters, or always they are.
Oh God, yeah.
So we left it off with. You won the special election, the Ward 1 councilor, right? So if memory serves, Scott Myers would have been the mayor at that time.
Yes, he was.
Who were some of the other people on that council? Do you remember when you started?
When I started, there was a whole slew over the terms that I was on.
Dean Trefethan was probably the Ward 4 councilor.
Yeah, Dean was there. I think Catherine Cheney was there.
Was Doug Deedy the Ward 2?
Doug Deedy was there. Yes. He was there. There was Ed Spuler, but that was afterwards. There was
because Spuler replaced you when you moved on to.
There was Gina Cruikshanks.
There were some really good institutional people for you to learn from.
Oh yeah,
and get your feet underneath.
Yes,
because I think people don't realize. Everyone says you should run for council. But there's work that needs to be done. There's learning that needs to be had. It's not a simple show up on a Wednesday night, open up a book and smile.
No.
You can do that, but you're not successful as a counselor if you do that.
I will say that when I first got on the council, Doug Deedy used to, I used to go over his house because I got my packet.
Yep.
And then he would explain the packet to me.
Oh, really?
Yes. Doug helped me out.
Good.
He says what resolutions were and what public hearings were, a citizens forum. He explained all that. And, I looked at it and I says, wow, that's, it was a lot. So I learned, but I was delicate with it because I was quiet. I listened. Scott says, Bob, if you want to think this way, I mean, we could use, spend the money in this area and that. And I'd ask the questions and all right, That sounds.
So I presume that you remained on the rec advisory, but as the council liaison
for a while, and at the time I was president over baseball.
Oh, okay.
Same time.
Okay.
So there was a lot. Oh, I know there was a lot. It was like I had to back down and back off a little.
And when you were president of Dover baseball, you had this beautiful tent that used to get borrowed.
Yes, it's ironic. We used to get, I was president of Dover baseball, but I say, look, I want to grab that tent. Okay, what's in the trailer? Well, what's the combination of the trailer? So I almost think if I stroll back on my phone, I have the number saved or something.
I was going to say, I have it under your contact.
Yeah, and I gave it to Chris because the tent was used as a family outing at the Parker residence. So it was good. It was a big tent. We got it all up.
It's like a 40 by 30.
And then they, it still was in good shape, and they just got rid of it or something. It's too bad because it was,
So you're on the council, you're learning from Doug, which is good. He certainly was a particular counselor.
He was.
In a particular point of view, but I suspect that based on his professional background, he was good at walking you through things and giving you sort of, maybe not, I could see him not being unbiased, but I could see him being the type that would be able to say, here's how the process works. If you want to improve the process, this is what you do. If you want to just float, this is what you do as well.
And he was his actual job was a financial advisor or something.
Right. He'd worked at Sears, and then
so he knew the numbers, And, I will say something on Doug, that he never pushed me one way or the other to say, you're going to have to vote, this way or whatever. But he used to say, I'm recommending you go this way, this and that. But,
he might be one of the few counselors that I remember on record saying to the manager, I didn't like you. You educated me, and now I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. Like, he was very clear to Mike.
Oh God,
that he was not in his camp to begin with, and the more he worked with him, the more he saw the way Mike's mind works and the intelligence behind the financing and things of that nature. And Doug got on board. So you're the Ward 1. You decide you want to be able to have some flexibility in moving, which is a common thing. And there's the at-large seats coming open. So you run at large.
Yes.
Is that the first move you thought of, or did you think maybe you'd run at mayor at that point? Like, when did you start thinking, was it a clear progression? I'm the Ward 1. I'm liking this. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to be an at-large counselor. Was that just the next step?
That's just the next step. I never really was at a predetermined point of, pushing to become the mayor. And, I'll say the way it was morphing into me running for mayor too. And to me, it was an easy button because, I was pretty frustrated with Karen, be honest with you.
So you were the deputy mayor.
I was a deputy.
With Karen Weston being the mayor. You and she, and now you and Deputy Mayor Shanahan have, in a lot of ways, been a team.
Oh, yeah.
You were supporting her, not just by helping us all understand how to pronounce bituminous.
Right, yes.
You, as you just said, you were supporting her running the meetings.
And absolutely.
You carried that through more as a partnership with the Deputy Mayor Shanahan.
Yes.
That, to me, seems like a really nice model that might not have always been the case. In the past, there have been mayors that were very strong and very focused on themselves.
Right.
And whether it was the mayor pro tem or the deputy mayor was much more of a, when we need you, fill in.
Right.
But I think when you became first Dean's deputy and then Karen's deputy, there was a different sort of, I'm going to run it this way.
Yeah.
Where did that come from for you? Was that just I want to do it my own way, or was there some methodology behind that?
I've been involved with so many different chairmanships of different committees and all that. And all through high school, I was class president, vice president, so I always ran stuff, always. And, I have a certain way of doing it. And the one thing I have always said, I've never been afraid of the camera or anything like that. At first, it gets a little intimidating, you're not sure, but, and my way was, I treated, and to this day, I've always treated the city council meetings as a meeting. And I'm not afraid to stop and say, deputy city manager, what's that question again? And then I laugh, or we do this. So I open it up and I try to make it a comfortable, even with the councilors.
You're very inclusive.
And I want to do that. It's not, others ran it more stringent. They ran it more with an iron fist and this and that and protocols and this. And we have protocols, but, I could stop in the middle of a meeting and say, Fergus, you're still eating chocolate over there. It's something. But, it's why I do that, or sometimes I do that, it's just me, but it's also a calming effect. It's a comfortable.
Yeah, you have a very even demeanor. And I think you also have a unique skill in creating commonality. Like, you create a relatable situation no matter what situation you're in, where you can say to Councilor Cullen, are you eating chocolate? Because we all like chocolate and we all can relate to wanting to sit there and nibble.
Yeah.
Same thing with having elevated conversations, recognizing that there's a time and place for detailed,
Oh yeah.
very
Oh yeah.
prescripted conversations. And you have a very unique ability to bring us all to that level.
Well, thank you. One thing that when we had our orientation, when I became mayor, and one thing we had the new councilors, some existing. One door that I opened, I says, "I'm going to explain something to all of you, and I'll tell you right off." I says, let's have decorum and be clear and concise on your questions and all that. And I says, number one, you will be recognized if you're the second one to speak or the third one to speak. Nobody's going to speak out of turn. I says, I'd respect that. And I said, secondly, that if I see you answering a question and you've got a pamphlet or something in front of you and you're reading verbatim a whole paragraph, I'll cut you off. So what do you mean? Just what I said. I says, if you haven't formulated your question or your answer or your opinion, we don't need to hear a thesis.
Right.
Because I'm done getting out of here at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
And
that was a thing for a long time.
And we had to suspend the rules how many times?
Yeah.
After 10:30 or 10,
Right.
something like that. 10, I can't remember.
It's been so long that I forget that we used to do that.
Yeah, we did.
Sure.
We did. And that was one of my sticklers. I says, there's no way. There was one time that I was on the council. I was deputy mayor, and Catherine Cheney, they wanted to go over some ordinances and this and that. Well, it'd be a good time. It was 11 o'clock, a quarter of 11. And I raised my hand. I says, yes, I'm leaving. I said, what do you mean? I says, that's what I said. I says, excuse me. I says, I'm all done for the evening. I says, if you think I'm going to sit here and decipher real important stuff on ordinances at 11 o'clock at night, I says, you're knocking on the wrong door. And Heather Council says, good idea. Good idea. Come on.
Right.
Come on. And you know how it went into, oh my God, sometimes. But I tried to pull it back. I had respect for somebody, and even to this day, there's a couple
always respectful
councilors that I say, what's your question? I had to do it in my last meeting.
Yeah.
Because it went on and head goes down. You all set? I'm not done with my question. Oh, okay. Let's go.
Yeah.
Then they say, well, what's your question? Because then I was getting like,
So you've had a lot of accomplishments as the mayor. You destroyed Dover High. Yeah. Oh, wait. I mean, you replaced Dover High.
Yeah, we destroyed it.
That was a thing, right? I mean, people would work to say that it was a travesty to remove that building. And anyone who looks at it today can't say that.
Right.
Right? I mean, that was a big deal to have.
Oh, people wanted to save the gym and this, but it was all intertwined. You couldn't save one part of it. There were old piers that went down, and those were, they were gone. That's not the new engineering and all that. So, yeah.
So that was the huge project on your water.
Roger.
What are some of the other ones that jump out to you as things that in the mayor or as
the
council?
Parking Garage Police Station?
Yep.
Yeah, those are chairman on that. That was huge. That was good. Helping out on McConnell Center renovation. There was a lot of parts to that. There were a lot of parts. Hahn Street School renovation.
Yeah.
Looked at that, and then we got into expanding it into the administrative area and stuff like that. So there was a lot. But the nice thing is all the architects, the engineers, and all that, I could relate to them because I understand the stuff. I understand the lingo,
So is it fair to say your two passions have been recreation and infrastructure?
Oh, yeah. I would have to say.
And then thinking about those projects you just mentioned, plus other things, the waterfront, other big projects that we've had, there's been a lot of infrastructure that you have helped push the community to make decisions on.
And, the getting the right people, too, like with the start of the high school project. Jason Gagnon was on that committee until he moved to North Conway. But here's a guy that knew all about excavation,
right?
All about groundwork. So that worked. Then Mark Gunther, he's a guy that blessed all these UNH projects, understood that,
right.
So we could go right down the list. And there was some very important people that, different parts that could, And, Amanda Russell, she was great. She was a good connection with education right there. She could talk about that. Sarah Greenshields, same way. And then Dennis came aboard, and that was a blessing. Dennis is, well-rounded and very smart. We had a good team.
I might have misspoke. The two hallmarks I said were infrastructure and recreation, but listening to you just now and thinking back to our conversation at the last episode, the desire to bring the city council and the school board together and to really work closer between the two bodies, making sure that we're all on the same page.
Absolutely.
Your relationship with Amanda when she was the school board chair, when you were both on the
there was no
us and them
electricity like that. No, good. It was good electricity, but not bad.
Yeah.
But there was. That's why one of the most recent council meetings we just had. I brought Christine Boston in to introduce her, to say a few words, and says, "We're looking forward to working with you." I says, "Whatever you have," I says, "those days are done. We're one team, and you try, and hopefully they'll continue that."
I think that Dr. Boston wants to continue that, as does the school board. They've shown interest in having those relationships. And I think, as you say, the incoming mayor, I think that he's got that background as well. So
he does.
Why we wouldn't want to continue that positive direction.
The thing about all those, and I'll be honest, my mind, it never stops, and it doesn't. So sometimes out of the blue, I'll sit there, played in the middle of the night or whatever, and I think, I says, let's try this and this and this. So I tell Dennis, I says, no, I'm going to bring in the school board, or I'm going to bring in Mike Lamani, because nobody knows him, and I think there's parts that some of these people are getting beat up, and I'm going to clear the air. So I'm going to bring him in and introduce him. We're going to talk a little bit, and that's where I really pushed aggressively in the last 4 years to reach out to all kinds of community stuff. This a key to the city, 100 year, that stuff happened back along a little bit, then it died, and then, bring in the public, like Mike, and we look at city manager goals and our goals and all that. We look at community outreach, and it's very difficult because people don't come to the meetings and stuff. But the best way for any kind of community outreach is bring in certain aspects of the school systems or the community. And say, I just, did Evan Hennessy say these people got awards nationally.
When you knew as a community, recognize them, thank them.
Yeah, and then their family members. So then it grows.
Yeah.
That's how you reach out.
Well, that, and maybe closer with the key, you're not only recognizing someone, but you're going to them.
Oh, yeah.
You're bringing the community to them, recognizing that we want to bridge gaps between our elderly population and the general community.
I had Linda Jarvis come. I had to push a little, and I asked Kevin.
Her comfort level was there.
I says, could you get Linda here to speak some night? So she did a good job. She spoke about all what the seniors are doing and all the traveling. I didn't know half of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's I think, to me, that's the bridge that you can build for community outreach.
So what do you want the incoming council to learn from you? You've got 4 new members of the council joining in January.
Yeah.
Where do you want them to look back and say, what would Bob Carrier do? WWBCD.
Well, they're going to follow their own lead, and that's good. But I think I would like them to look back of some of our accomplishments and what we've done in the city and the growth we have in the city, and understand it, and make sure it's a good balance fiscally and all of the above, and reach out to people, their concerns. The biggest thing is to talk to people, and learn, there's a lot that they got to learn. I mean, I had one guy that told me that he was going to run for mayor. This is probably about 3 months ago. This is after the sign up. So whatever the time frame, October,
September.
Yeah. And I says, oh yeah? He says, yeah, someday. I said, oh, good. And then his wife was there. She was shaking her head. And he says, yeah, I've run big committees and all that. And I says, well, you don't know anything about municipality, do you? Government. I could do it. And he says, no, you can't. And he says, what? I said, no, you can't. And his wife says, yeah, you can't do that. And I says, look, I'm not trying to be any which way. I says, you want to run and everything else? I says, but you just can't come out of the block and just run a meeting and do that. You gotta, there's a lot of dynamics. There's a lot to it. And it takes time, you know? And if you do come out of the block and you hard fast dictating more or less the council on that, you're going to be making mistakes left and right because you got to understand the backgrounds.
Right.
You know,
You got to think before you
I do. And a lot of those resolutions that come up, did you look at the packet? I says, I looked at it quick. There's a majority of those things that we've already seen, we've discussed, and it's come to fruition. And one thing Mike said to me, he says, refer to me on all resolutions. He says, I planned on it because there was a lot of misinformation. Oh, it had to be stopped. No, we're not going to bond that yet. We're going to do. Right.
Right. Tell us what the resolution says, what you're looking for us to accomplish.
And he's, you sit in, you do it the same way. You're very articulate. You know the scope. I don't. Somebody says, well, don't you know that? I says, no. I says, not all of it.
That's why you have a professional manager running the organization.
I says, planning, they're doing this and this. I says, didn't you know that? I said, no. I says, let me ask you, how would I? I says, until it comes to in front of us or the discussion, I says, yeah, then we'll know it. I says, but in their planning, I don't go to the meetings, all that. We get committee reports, planning board reports, but that's it.
You've got your own work life that you're focused on, as well as your civic life. So what are some of the other things that you want to highlight that you experienced on the council or in your volunteerism? Is there anything else you want to bring up that might jump out to you or stand out to you?
I think for the most part, I feel honored. I feel recognized. I mean, I'm not looking for that position. But there's an awful lot of people that have given me a lot of support and a lot of kudos. And, I'm taken back by it. And the volunteerism, I don't even think twice about, pitching in and doing this and that. And I got recognized, obviously, by our governor.
Yeah.
For volunteers.
Yep.
Yeah, at the executive committee. And she gave me a proclamation they read, and it was about volunteering.
Right.
Long time volunteer. And I says, look, I don't do it. It's not like I take a pad of paper and make a list. Okay, I'm going to log this in, and it just kind of happens, and anything that people need is a lot of times, And Kath, my partner, was very good too. She supported me all the way. And it was,
and she had the same sort of grounding that you do, or same baseline of community action.
Absolutely. And then she was on school board for 10 years, secretary, and she did a lot. Yep. And we had pretty strong discussions.
I'm sure. So as we wrap up, I'm thinking about your comment about next steps. And one of the things I know you're going to stay involved with is the 9/11 Memorial.
Oh, yeah.
Committee you created after this year's 9/11 ceremony to recognize next year's 25th anniversary.
Absolutely.
That's something you and I serve on that together. And I know you're going to stay active with that. I'm sure you're going to stay active with your support for finding homeless solutions and things of that nature. And as we joked about last time, you can always show up at the podium and take off your shoe and bang on the podium.
Yeah.
Back when I was mayor.
The homeless is near and dear to my heart because it's just, you can't fix it totally. You can just, help it. You can.
There's no snapping of the finger.
There is nothing. There's no perfect solution. And, all the other stuff, we just gotta, I'll just keep my fingers in, within reason. I mean, like with the council and all that, this is the council's, this is their ball game now.
Yeah.
There's going to be things there that may look at and say, I don't know if I would, it's not my business. It is my business, but it is because it's a new way to look at it. But I think it'll work towards still a better value in Dover too, and I'm happy where I'm at. I mean, it's good. I just don't. People ask me, says, yeah, what are you feeling, and this and that, and I says, I don't know. I really haven't had time to think too much. I've been so busy with meetings and everything else and all that. But I did make a statement in my last council meeting. I asked the councilors. I says, this was the last statement, but I says, has anyone ever seen the movie Castaways? They all say, yeah, it was a great movie, Tom Hanks. I says, well, I saw myself in Castaways. What do you mean? I says, remember when Tom Hanks was at the crossroads? He looked straight because there was a gal that had a package. Looked behind. He looked left. He looked right. And he wasn't sure which road he was going to take. I'll leave you with that.
Yeah. Well, there's always a seat at the parking commission, which is the committee that old retired mayors go to. So sure, Charlie would welcome you.
Yeah, Charlie, I probably would. I
appreciate the time you've given us today and the time you've given the community over the past 50 years. It truly is remarkable to look back at your accomplishments, at your community giving. I've learned from you. The community has learned from you. It's been an honor to serve with you.
I really am honored to do this podcast. I'm honored to have all these kind words and everything. It's just, it fills my head after a while. It's like,
it's just like a cult.
It's like, it's good. It's okay. It's this, but, and I'll still be involved. I got some committees and all that. And I don't know where it takes me. I've been asked 2 or 3 times different things. Would you join us? All right, now.
Yeah.
It says I gotta
take a breather.
Yeah, I need a little time off. Yeah. But not off.
Yeah.
Off.
Well, enjoy the day, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you all.
It is December 2025, so we are looking back at what happened this month with the City Council, Planning Board, and a few other boards and committees and commissions. We're joined today by Brian Early from the Media Services Department and Erin Bassegio from the Planning Department. Welcome, Brian and Erin.
Thanks, Chris.
As we look back on the month, Erin, what did the Planning Board accomplish in December of 2025?
The Planning Board met once in December. It was a pretty lengthy agenda, but they got through it pretty efficiently.
Good.
They had to start off with some minor applications. They approved a couple of lot line adjustments, a minor subdivision, and a CUP related to some conservation district impacts for a single family home. That went to Concom a couple of months ago, I believe, for endorsement. A CUP and site plan was also approved on Industrial Park Road. This is an existing structure. They proposed an addition to the existing structure as well as a new industrial building on site. Again, that was approved. The CUP was related to wetland buffer impacts as part of that project. Concom also met in December. That was endorsed at their December meeting. And one that I think a lot of people have been watching next to Hannaford, the old Ames department store. A site plan amendment was approved to convert that into a fitness facility with pickleball courts. Again, that was a site plan amendment to the original site plan for the development. They also proposed an access way over to the Shaw's side of that complex. So that was approved as part of the amendment.
When do they expect to begin either constructing that or the renovations?
So the renovations, I know they are hoping to get started as soon as possible.
Great.
I think we can expect to see that pretty quickly. I think the access way will probably be when it's a little nicer out, probably spring, maybe summer at the latest.
Great.
And finally, there was a CUP and site plan at 914 Central Ave. This was a former restaurant that's been vacant for many years now.
Almost as long as the Ames.
And the theme of this was reuse of old buildings. Good to see. And this one is going to be a childcare facility. They also had a CUP as part of this project approved. That site's in the secondary groundwater protection district. They're only increasing the impervious surface area by about 1% from what's there.
That's great.
But because of the total amount, it needs to be approved because it's within that area. So that also went to Concom at their December meeting and was endorsed.
Nice. Brian, how about the City Council? It also had one meeting this month, I believe.
Yeah, December was a busy month for the City Council. They had a workshop for the capital improvements program. They had a brief special meeting to introduce resolution for the new funding for the new emergency warming center to be built on Stratford County. And then they had lengthy discussions of the capital improvements program known as the CIP and authorizing money for the proposed warming center. Stratford County commissioners are sort of organizing this, I believe. Is that correct, Chris?
Right. It's going out at the county property. When you enter the property, you have the courthouse on the right as you're traveling down County Farm Road, and on the left is the Riverside Rest Home, jail, and the area where the Humane Society was. As you note, the county commissioners are going to manage the project and operate the project. The three communities, Dover, Somersworth, and Rochester, are going to fund the building, and then all of the county, so Dover included, will fund the operations after an initial grant year. The county has grant funds to operate the initial year of the warming center.
And the goal is to open this up for not this winter, but next winter. The city of Dover, which owns the warming center on Willen Drive and Somersworth, will be selling that, and that will be part of the funding mechanism for the project.
Correct. The city sold land it owned in Rollinsford to partially fund its commitment, and then this land on Willen Drive in Somersworth, proceeds from that will also go towards the city's financial commitment.
During the CIP discussion, the city council made some changes to the original proposed CIP, moving up the Horn Street reconstruction project to year 2 in the 6-year plan and moving the Dover Point roundabout to year 6. The city council also authorized its annual expenditure for the Municipal Alliance for Adaptive Management. This is the group of cities and towns that are paying for monitoring and adaptive management for the Great Bay as part of the Environmental Protection Agency's nitrogen permit. They also authorized allocating funds to expand the new inspection services building. And I believe, Chris, once completed, this will allow the renovation of the nearby Public Works building.
Correct. The Master Road Public Works facility, the Bouchard building, opened up about 25 years ago, and as is needed in many 25-year-old buildings, there's some housekeeping upgrades, HVAC, roof, etc. But there's also a vast change in how we use the building from an operations standpoint. So what we're looking to do is renovate the basement of the inspection services building, which is left uncompleted, and then add on to that building, which it was designed to be added on to. And that additional area would be used to move the administration and possibly the engineering staff out of the existing Mass Road building so that building can be renovated and fully used for operations, bring in some staff that are in other buildings now to more consolidate. So everything is operated out of the one area.
Lastly, this was the last city council meeting for city councilors Robbie Warak, Deborah Hackett, Linnea Nemeth, and the last meeting for Mayor Robert Carrier, whose stint on the city council began in 2008.
Earlier in this episode, we had Bob on to talk about his career here in Dover, and last week as well. So 2 episodes focusing on him on the Dover Download.
And that wraps up what's happening in city council.
Erin, any other land use activities going on this month?
A couple other meetings. CBA met in December. They approved a variance on Page Street that was just for rear setback relief for the construction of a garage. But they also approved 3 variances at 28 Dover Point Road. These were related to the construction of a commercial structure in the R12 district, front setback relief, as well as relief for a commercial structure in relation to residential uses. These were all related to a previous approval on site that has since expired. So a new property owner has come to the property and is basically seeking new approvals on that site.
Yeah. Plans changed a little. They got to react through the relief mechanisms.
That's it. And finally, the Energy Commission met this month. They talked about some of their ongoing projects that we've discussed before, but one of the new things, they're talking about the possibility of forming a new sustainability group, potentially a subcommittee or an ad hoc group focused on the resilience plan. Some of the things that aren't energy specific, plastic reduction, composting, all of the above. So really focused on some of those broader goals within the resilience plan.
Nice. We'll see where that goes in the new year. Brian, any other activities that we should take note of?
Well, the Dover School Board continued its work on its fiscal year 2027 budget this month. They will continue next month with the new school board when it's inaugurated on January 5th. And they are expecting to vote to adopt the budget on January 12th. This month, the school board said goodbye to Carolyn Meebert, who has served for 20 years on the school board through 2 5-term stints. She first started in 2002. In other school-related stuff, the Dover High School broke ground on the new athletic complex. This project will shift Dunway Field, add new grandstands and a track. The shifting of the field allows the shifting of the baseball field and the creation of another multi-sport athletic field. The Joint Building Committee is hoping for a warm winter to help speed along construction, but so far Mother Nature hasn't been so cooperative.
You know, when you wish for things, sometimes you get the opposite, such as the coldest winter in December in like 20 years. All right. Appreciate you both coming in and talking to us about what's going on here in the city of Dover. Thanks to all our volunteers over the past year that have made these boards, committees, and commissions active and accomplishing all the myriad of things we've accomplished in 2025 and keeping the community going. Have a great year. Thanks for listening to the Dover Download this week. If you like what you heard, subscribe through your favorite podcast aggregator. And if you have something you want to hear a topic on, let us know. Finally, this is just one of the many ways we share information about the city of Dover. You can subscribe to the Dover Downloads email newsletter every week or other newsletters that we have by going to the City of Dover homepage, www.dover.nh.gov. Have a great week.